In this tutorial, I am going to show you how to set up a simple Mandala Maker template that can be used to take a number of different shapes and objects like I have on the right here to create an virtually infinite number of mandala designs. So to get started, we need to have a square workspace document. I have my dimensions set at 8.5 by 8.5 inches. Once you have that done, make sure you have the transformations docker available, because we'll be utilizing the rotation transformation quite heavily in making our mandala designs and setting up the template. So once you have those, go ahead and switch to the Bezier tool. And once you have that, just click and hold down Shift to create a vertical line. Doesn't matter the length at this point. Switch back to your pick tool, and if you hit P on your keyboard, it will center your line vertically and horizontally, dead center in your workspace. Once you have that created, you go over to the transformations docker, switch over to the rotate tool, and we need to create multiple copies of this line to start giving us our template setup. So we want to change our angle of rotation here to 30 degrees, and then the number of copies we want to switch to 5. Once you enter that, click apply, you'll get even number of lines rotated at 30 degrees, 360 degrees around the circle here. Once that's done, you want to select all the lines, and we'll just group them at this point by hitting Control G on our keyboard. And with them all selected, we want to duplicate them by hitting plus on our numpad, and then up at the top here we want to change the rotation to 15 degrees. This gives us a duplicate of the original lines, and this gives us our kind of main rotation line guideline. Once you've done that, go ahead and select them all, and we're going to ungroup all the objects, and we're just going to now combine them all into one object. Once that is done, we are going to we're going to duplicate this object again by hitting plus on the keyboard. And this time we want to have our last rotation by 2, or just have it, and rotate by 7.5 degrees. With it still selected, we're just going to hold down Shift and scale down these lines. And we're going to change these to red, and then the original ones to blue. This just gives us easy distinction between our lines and our guidelines here. So each kind of chunk or territory here is 7.5 degrees worth of rotation, and the full blue is 15. Once that is done, go ahead and select both line objects and just hit Control G to group them, and we're just going to scale these up so that they go so that these ones go slightly beyond our kind of workspace. The next thing I want to do is create a circle by clicking and holding down Control to constrain its proportions so that we get a perfect circle. And again, hit P on the keyboard to center it in the workspace. And I like to kind of scale this up to about that so that I get a kind of outer edge border reference for when I'm making my mandala designs. Once that's done, I'm going to switch this to just a light blue. There, you could offset this in to give you kind of the horizontal template guide for the types of designs you might be interested in. For the purposes of this tutorial, I don't do that. I don't need them. So we're just going to skip that for now. But once you have this outer circle created, just go ahead and select everything again and hit Control G to group everything again. The reason I'm doing that is just so that I'm not going to accidentally select it, or if I need to select the guide and move it to the back or to the front, everything comes with it and it's just easier to work with. The next thing I want to do is we're going to create another circle, hit P, and we're going to scale this one beyond the edges of our line, the endpoints of our lines here, and then hit plus to duplicate again and just scale it about yay far. It's not really, doesn't really matter how much, just a little bit so that it's going to be easier to select when we get to making our designs. So select both circles you just created and hit combine at the top and just give it a random fill color. It's just for selection purposes. But once you have done that, you have essentially created your Mandala Maker template. This is just the basics of what I use to create my designs. So now we'll go through the process that I use to create my designs so that you can see how this is going to work. And before we get going on that, you may want to pause the video to just kind of create some generic shapes. You can screenshot the video here and create these exact ones or similar ones, or create your own, but you'll need a selection of shapes to do the next part of the tutorial. So before we do that, I have a little cheat sheet that I use when making my designs that just makes the process go quicker, that I don't have to do math in my head like on the fly. But on the left here, this will be your degrees of rotation angle here that you set, and this will be the number of copies that you will want to enter here at the bottom. Basically what it is just to get for the degrees, or for the you're going to take 360 degrees divided by these increments, and that will give you the number of objects that you can get around a 360 degree circle. And if you'll notice, they're all minus one number. So 360 degrees divided by 5 is 72, but because you'll start with an original object, you only need to make 71 more copies around to get to 72 total objects. So that's the basics behind this little cheat sheet table here. You can write down these numbers for yourself. Primarily, for this tutorial, we're going to be hanging around the 30 degree with 12 total objects around the circle. And another little cheat sheet or cheat that I add to my template is this little object that corresponds with the lines here that you know, if you have an object that is between these two blue lines here, you know, then you know that you only need to, that you can set your rotation to angle to 30 and you'll need 11 copies, versus if you scale it down inside the two red lines here, you'll know that your rotation angle will be 15 degrees and you'll need 23 copies. It's just these are the most common ones I use. Yours might be different, so you can set up that guide. Just again, another quick visual so that you don't have to try and remember which line is which, and you know, how many copies you might need. But you'll know that if you want to have a 30 degree rotation angle with 11 copies, you know that regardless of the size of the object, you just need to stay within these two blue lines here. So that's just something to keep in mind when you are creating your objects and scaling them and kind of deciding your design. Is just these are the lines you want to stay within. So one last thing before we get started. The reason for this outer green circle is we're using the center rotation point of this green circle object as our rotation point for all of our objects inside of it, because that's how CorelDraw works, where if it uses the outermost object as your rotation pivot point, whatever the center of that is. So if, regardless of where we put the object in here and then select the two objects, it's going to rotate around the center point of this green circle. But if this were outside of the green circle and then we select it and do rotate again, it's going to rotate around the center point of this object. So with all the basics kind of covered, let's go through a quick walkthrough of creating a design using this method. So I like to start with a circle in the center, just with a white fill, just to give me kind of a center point here. Next thing we'll do is duplicate the circle and just scale it up a bit. And I like to, as I create each new layer, I will send it all the way to the back by hitting Shift page down on the keyboard, and as you know, and then make sure that the template layer or object is always in the back. So you do the same thing, select that and hit Shift page down. So select that new outer circle, and I'll just give it a black fill. And we'll take this object and I'll hit P on the keyboard to center it, and then holding Shift and clicking and dragging can bring this up, and then we'll hit Shift page down and then Control page up to just bring it one step above the template. And I think we'll do that. Yeah, we're gonna scale that. Okay. So now with that selected, I'm going to select the green circle. I already have 30 degrees set in my rotation angle, and I want to change my copies to 11, and then click apply, and we get our evenly distributed objects. For this design, I'm going to select every other one and hit Control G to group those, and then do the same thing for the other objects. And I want those ones, the original ones, to be slightly above the secondary ones. Next thing, we're going to take this little object, we'll hit P to center it, and I want this to be kind of in between here, like so, but I don't want to try and rotate it and try and get in here. So what I will do is select everything but this object, and I will rotate it 15 degrees. That'll move it halfway between, and now this will be centered and easier to work with. So I'm going to hit, and so now I want to kind of do that, and then with that selected, select the green circle. My settings are going to stay in there until I change them, so I just need to hit apply. I'm going to select all those new objects and group them by hitting Control G. And I'm going to select everything and rotate them, the whole thing, back 15 degrees by changing rotation to negative 15 degrees. That'll center everything back up vertically here. For the next object, I want to use this one. I'll hit P and hit Shift page down and Control page up. And actually, I'm going to rotate this one back. I want to center this on there, and we're going to scale this up so that our edge is slightly inside of the 30-degree blue lines here. Actually, before go further, I'm going to duplicate this black circle by hitting plus. I'm going to scale it up and do that. Hit shift page down, control page up, and then I'm going to nudge that up. There. Yeah, I like that placement. So with that done, select the green circle again, hit apply, select all those new objects, and I like to, each new kind of layer object that I create, select all of them and group them all into one grouping, just so that I don't accidentally move them or select them with other objects. Yeah, so select everything again, and we'll just rotate them -15 degrees just to get our next kind of area to work with centered. And I want to add this object, and we'll hit P to center it, hit shift page down, control page up, and yeah, I think I'm just going to scale that a little bit. Yeah, I like that. So we'll select our green circle, click apply the rotation, select all the objects, hit Control G to group, and next thing I want to do is select these objects here, and I want to add a kind of black outline around. So what I'll do is, with them selected, I'm going to grab the contour tool, and we'll do an outside offset. And you can play with the settings on how thick you want this black outline to be, but once it looks good, hit Control K on the keyboard, deselect everything, then select that new outline and just give it a black fill, so that it looks like it kind of connects into these outer black shapes here. Next thing I want to do is I want to reuse this set of objects here, kind of in these kind of empty spaces here. In order to do that, just select that grouping, hit plus, and then we're just going to scale them up. I'm going to shift page down, and actually what I want to do, we're going to rotate -15 degrees, or yeah, get it set back to center here, and scaling them up made them a little larger than I kind of want. So what I'm going to do is just ungroup them, hold down shift and click the top centermost object and delete all the rest of them. So now I can just scale this down a little bit, and it's still centered vertically. I'm going to move that like so. Yeah, once you have it at a good size, just go ahead and redo the rotation of the copies there, and just select and group them. Next thing I want to do is to create another outline of these objects here. So just grab the contour tool, and I'm going to bump that up, hit Control K to select everything, select this outline, And I'm going to move it all the way back. And I'm going to do the same thing with these objects here. And hit Control K. And I want to do something slightly different with these ones. I'm going to select that outline object and just scale them up, just to give it a slightly different kind of thickness and look. With that done, I'm going to select this outline object and I'm going to weld them into one solid shape. Next thing I want to do is rotate everything again, and we're just going to scale this down slightly inside of our kind of blue circle here. And then the last thing I want to do is grab this object, hit P, and this is going to be our final object to our design. And we're just going to scale this down inside. So, like so. Then grab the green circle, rotate the objects, select all the new objects, and group them. And the last thing I want to do is create a connecting black outline object. So with this outline object selected, grab the contour tool again. We're going to duplicate, we're going to lessen the size, hit Control K, select the object, give it a black fill, and then shift page down, and there. Now it looks like it has a nice black outline kind of framing the entire design. And then I'll just grab everything and group it, and we have our kind of final design. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share this video. It will help to grow this channel and allow me to provide more content. See you in the next video.